morning. Hi, I'm Judy Carson, if I haven't met you, from the State Department of Education. And it's my pleasure to welcome you today and to this space. Is this an amazing space? And what's behind these doors are more amazing spaces. And what's downstairs is super cool. It'll knock your socks off. So you're going to hear a little bit more about this facility and the good work that goes on here in just a minute. But after the session at 11:30, we can have a tour of the space. And you can see how each of these rooms is used, and then you can see something very special and very surprising downstairs that no other building I've been in has. So I hope that whetted your appetite and you're able to stay a few minutes and really take everything in. So, Friday Cafe, we're here. It's been a heck of a week for a lot of us. I don't know about you too. It was a heck of a morning at my house. But I knew I was coming here. I knew I was coming to Friday Cafe. So I was digging around in my closet. It was very dark. And so I found this t-shirt. See that? It's a true story. So I thought that's a good shirt for today, and it was from my team at the Statewide Family Engagement Center and Dr. Veronica Marion, who will be here in just a minute. So I thought that's perfect. That's going to set the tone for my day. So many of you have been to Friday Cafe before, and we know you and love you. But looking at the registration list, I think we have quite a few new friends as well. We always like to welcome folks who are new to this experience. So if this is your first Friday Cafe, could you just raise your hand? Welcome. And if this is your first Friday Cafe in person, maybe you were online with us the last couple of months. This is, yay. Yeah. So it is a little bit of a different experience in person because it's relational. So we're going to talk about that. So what is Friday Cafe? So it's our space to connect with like-minded others who do this work and care about these relationships between families and schools, which we think is everybody's business. But this is a space in a community to come together and talk about that and think about that and commiserate about that. And we also call it restorative, because oftentimes we need someone who gets it and who has been through it. And I say this every time, I'll say it again, I am convinced that the innovation and the growth in our field comes from the ground up. So I think you all are in the work with the families, and that's where we really, you're figuring it out. And so it's your ideas that we try to take and bring them to the community so that they can grow and we can learn from each other. Part of Friday Cafe is also about a spark, doing something different, going somewhere different, and hearing from people that you haven't heard from before. So it's not a training, it's not so much a presentation as it is a conversation. So that's what we call our speakers conversation catalysts. And with the theme of spark, I think that really fits for today and the space we're in. Then it's also about leadership and leading alongside families. And today's session really hits that nail on the head, I think. And I'll say a little bit more about that in just a minute. So with that, I want to welcome my colleague from the Statewide Family Engagement Center, Melissa Redding, to tell you a little bit more about their work, and it's thanks to their work that we're able to be here today. And then we will hear some more from our host in this beautiful facility.
Everyone, my name is Melissa Redding, and I'm the program manager for the Statewide Family Engagement Center. And we have the privilege of partnering with all 6 regions of Connecticut with the goal to partner with families and schools for student academic success. And the way that we do that is through family engagement. We currently partner with 27 school districts. We have a statewide advisory council that is comprised of professionals, parents, and we currently have 42 members. And so we're really excited about that. We partner with 4 unique leadership partners. So MTSS, which is out of Johns Hopkins, Dr. Joyce Epstein, if you know her work, we utilize her framework. We partner with CERC, We partner with the State Department of Education and CPAC. And so now I'm going to welcome Gabrielle, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the space that we're in this morning.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning. And welcome to Connecticut Children's Aid. This is our Danbury site, but our behavioral health centers are not just located in Danbury. You can hear me? No. This one too? The good morning, I think you heard that. So you are all welcome. What I was trying to explain is that this is one of our behavioral health centers. We have one location here in Danbury. Like Dr. Carson said, we are going to give you a short tour after the whole presentation. And we also have a wonderful behavioral health center in the Waterbury location and also in New Milford. Those are the three main sites for behavioral health. And I don't know if you see the slide, I have trouble even looking at it. We have, as you can see, a vast array of services that we provide. We have the outpatient services, which are behavioral health center, which is this one, working with clinicians that work with children and adolescents and families. But we also have other programs. A better choice is a program, a substance abuse program for adolescents. I'm actually the director of the program and the person that spearheads that program. It's very important for kids that have difficulties with substances, maybe not that much, to be guided, to be supported, to try to find out what it is that is happening to that child, so we don't lose that child and doesn't take that a different route. I have my heart rate, you see. So also we have the extended day treatment program. The extended day treatment program is an IOP, intense outpatient program, that is here in the location of Danbury. And this program is for kids that are a little bit more compromised. So, and it runs for several hours. I'm not sure how familiar are you with these programs. And extended day program, the kids can enter, not right from the community, they must be referred from the clinic, the behavioral health center, internal referral, and it's kind of across the street. And then is Compass, my latest love, and the director of that program too. It's something that we started a couple of years ago, that's all, and we are providing services to adults in the community. The program is open to all adults in the community, and I think that was super important for us to expand our services, and it's so much needed. And then these two last programs, Peace, Love, and Project Joy, has to do with non-traditional modalities of treatment. Peace, Love is based in art, and it's all the artwork, and it's treatment through art. It's a whole philosophy of treatment. Downstairs, when you see the tour, we have a whole room that is specific for Peace, Love treatment, art therapy. And then we have Project Joy, and we are sitting here. Project Joy is play therapy. Play therapy is about reaching someone through different channels. Not the channel of talk therapy, the channel of feeling happiness, connecting with your loved ones, connecting with your families. We used to have something called a family night that we are going to resume that. Of course, COVID made everything stop, but now we are resuming that, and it was a wonderful experience. I was part of that with a huge parachute, and you see parents and children reconnecting, creating positive connections through play. parents are super worried and concerned and busy. And when you realize something that is missing is the play. Just doing things that they are fun, no counseling, no, just having fun with your children. So this is a wonderful modality of treatment. Then for more intense type of treatment, we have in-home services, which is ICAPs. ICAPs is a team of one professional, one master's level, and one bachelor's level, and that team works with a family visiting their homes, in general 3 times a week, and addressing all concerns that they might have, work in family therapy, work with a child, and it lasts about 6-7 months, sometimes they're extended. ICAPS is really a very effective treatment, and it depends of the Yale modality of treatment. This was created by Yale originally, and FCA been working and having these teams across Connecticut, I would say, for many, many years. We have the ICAP teams here in Denver, then we have it in Waterbury, we have it in New Milford, New Britain. So there are several sites that they provide ICAP services. And then, let me see. I have two type of classes. The short one, the long one. Without the other ones, I really cannot say what is there. Okay, so I recovered my eyes. So then the community-based services, that is to the left, we have a series of programs. Connected Kin, SIKIN, Child First, RTFT, CSC, MIT, QPC. All these are community-based services, but they are related one way or another with foster care services, the majority of them. I'm going to talk a little bit about the MIT team. The MIT services, the MIT team is here located in Denver. And it's about abuse cases. They work with all abuse cases. It's a team composed by clinicians, police, DCF, that interview the child, you might be familiar with that, and cases of abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. So it's very intense. And we provide those services here in the site of Denver. And then this foster care. Foster care, FCA has been working with foster care families for a very, very, very long time, and families that want to become foster care parents, and these programs that I just mentioned has to do with connecting these parents in one way, or supporting these parents to become parents or solve some problem that they might have in foster parents. And then the residential services that they are here in Denver is a therapeutic adolescent group home. Females, right now we have females, we used to have males and females, 2 separate homes, now we have females. And then it's the Harmony House shelter for homeless mother and children. And the homes, we are lucky to announce that the homes also have been expanded, and it's something very recent. So I wrote brochures, they are on the table. If you want to know more about these programs, you get the brochures, I left my cards there. And I hope you have a great event. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you so much. It really is amazing to have such a wealth of holistic services under one umbrella. And we're grateful to be able to be here in this space. So I'd like to introduce our conversation catalyst for this morning, the pivot to partnerships. We talk about asset-based systems for multilingual learners and their families. This is a little bit different. I told you earlier about the idea of leading alongside families. The approach we're going to talk about today We're going to hear about strengths-based systems. You're going to hear about families, funds of knowledge. And you're going to hear about how meeting multilingual families where they are really lifts up the experience for all of our students and families. Very often, we help families navigate our system. And we have classes, we have materials, we have outreach, we have all kinds of so that they can navigate our system. What if we listened first and then said, maybe we could remove the barriers so it's not so hard for everybody to get through the system. And training families, teaching families, it's fabulous, but you know what? We get in families next year, and the next year, and the next year, and we still have the system that has the barriers. So by looking internally, looking at the barriers, and using the families' voices and perspectives they really know because they're living it, we change things at the system level that endure. So when we were having this conversation to set up today's event, I was really excited because it is a flip, it is a pivot. And it can start in small ways, talking to families in their homes, and then it can be in larger ways, changing things in an entire school and influencing how things work in an entire district. So we're really excited to bring this to you today. It's going to be very fun, very interactive. And we're going to start first with the bigger picture with Plainville. Yes, no, I'm sorry, Naugatuck. The bigger picture with Naugatuck. That's really talking about the system, changing things, and seeing that all children benefit. And that's Nomeli Aloisa and Meg Rolla. And then following that is going to be Lily Cordero, talking more about meeting families where they are in their homes and communities. So welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to the team at Friday Cafe for inviting Nomeli and I to speak. I'm Meg Rolla. I'm the principal at Andrew Avenue School in Naugatuck. And with me I have Nomeli Aloisa, who is our amazing TESOL teacher. So our presentation is called Learn, Thrive, Belong, a strategic framework for asset-based learning in our school district. A brief overview of what we'll be presenting on today. After identifying barriers limiting multilingual learners' access to Tier 1 instruction, Naugatuck Public Schools took intentional steps to ensure equitable, strength-centered learning opportunities for all students. Through the implementation of culturally responsive teaching and asset-based practices, we really focused on building teacher capacity while fostering classrooms where students' languages, cultures, and experiences are valued as assets. We strengthened family partnerships by expanding communication methods, ensuring translation of all materials, and creating meaningful opportunities for families to actively participate and have a voice in school communities. Using SIAP strategies, targeted PLCs, instructional walkthroughs, and ongoing professional learning, we equipped our educators with practical tools to support language development and academic achievement to ensure every student can learn, thrive, and belong.
So we had mentioned SIOP, and that it means Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol. I don't know how many people are familiar with it, but SIOP was designed to make grade level academic content understandable for multilingual learners, while at the same time developing their English language proficiency. And I got all that information from this book. It's the Making Content Comprehensible for Multilingual Learners. If you want to come up and take a picture of it, once we're done, I will have it here at the front table. So the model contains 30 features and 8 components. The components are lesson preparation, building background, comprehensible input, strategies, interaction, practice and application, lesson delivery, and review and assessment. The SIOP model is a research-based practice that shows it can improve the academic literacy of multilingual learners, but it also is best practice for all students, and that's something that I mention to my teachers quite often. So today we're gonna do a quick activity before we dive into what it is specifically we've done in our school district, and that's going to touch upon one of the 8 components, which is comprehensible input. I don't want it to start yet. So you have a sheet of paper in front of you that looks like what's being presented. And what I would love for you to do is you're going to watch this lesson, and I would love for you to try to complete this organizer. You can do it with a partner, by yourself, it doesn't matter.
好，今天我们来学习食品和健康。首先，我们来看一下猴子和熊猫的饮食。猴子很瘦，猴子很健康。猴子吃健康食品，猴子吃苹果，猴子吃胡萝卜，猴子吃米饭，猴子喝果汁。猴子很健康，熊猫吃不健康食品，熊猫吃炸鸡腿，熊猫吃薯条，熊猫吃巧克力。熊猫喝可乐，熊猫不健康。谁的食品更健康？猴子还是熊猫？接下来我们要把食品分类，分成健康食品和不健康食品。薯条，薯条是不健康食品，我们把它放在这里。苹果。苹果是健康食品，我们把它放在这里。好，接下来请大家把食品。
Oops.
你们
Did it go? Okay. I think we were like over here.
苹果，苹果是健康食品，我们把它放在这里。好，接下来请大家把食品分类，谢谢。
Okay, so now I just want you to take 1 minute and complete that graphic organizer. You can do it with a partner, you can do it independently, and then we'll share out what you got. So some questions I want us to think about is, what were you able to do? If you made any guesses, how did you make them? And what did this teacher do to support your comprehension?
Anyone want to take a risk and share out? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, by watching the video, we were able to take the first word and put it into the second column, but then we were lost. And then the aha moment was when, how is it that our students feel when they're being taught in a language that they don't understand?
Exactly.
Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
That's exactly what the experience is about, is how do our multilingual learners feel in the classroom when the content is not comprehensible for them. Hence the term comprehensible input. So now we're going to watch the video again with a different graphic organizer that Meg is going to pass out to you. And I want you to think about how this video could be more helpful.
好，
I also want you to keep in mind it's not really realistic. You'll see what I mean.
你们好。这节课我们来学习食品和健康。首先，我们来看一下猴子和熊猫的饮食。猴子吃健康食品，猴子很健康，猴子每天跑步，猴子可以举重，猴子很开心的读书，因为猴子吃健康食品。苹果吃，猴子吃苹果，猴子吃苹果。胡萝卜吃，猴子吃胡萝卜，猴子吃胡萝卜。米饭，猴子吃米饭，猴子吃米饭。果汁， 猴子喝果汁，猴子喝果汁，猴子吃健康食品，猴子很健康，猴子每天很有劲，猴子每天很开心。熊猫吃不健康食品，熊猫每天都很累，每天都想睡觉。熊猫吃不健康食品，炸鸡腿，炸鸡腿。熊猫吃炸鸡腿，熊猫吃炸鸡腿。薯条，薯条，吃，熊猫吃薯条，熊猫吃薯条。巧克力，巧克力，熊猫吃巧克力，熊猫吃巧克力。可乐，可乐，喝，熊猫喝可乐，熊猫喝可乐。熊猫吃不健康食品，熊猫每天都很累，每天就想睡觉。谁的食品更健康？猴子还是熊猫？接下来我们来做食品分类。我们有一些食品，现在我们要把它们分类。薯条，薯条，薯条是不健康食品，不健康食品。熊猫吃不健康食品，所以我们把薯条贴在不健康食品这里。苹果，苹果，猴子吃健康食品，猴子吃健康食品。我们把苹果放在健康食品这里。好，接下来请大家把食品分类，你们来把食品分类。好，谢谢。
Okay, now that we watched that, what were some things that the teacher did that made the content comprehensible for you?
Oh, quick.
I was gonna say, for me, it was easier to. She had actual items as well, so it was like the physical item, and she was saying it, but then she also had a visual, so it was like multiple ways of seeing the actual item and tying it to each animal.
Mm-hmm. Anything else anybody noticed that she was doing?
She used a lot of gestures.
Yes, physical gestures.
Drinking, so that really helped to understand what she was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, repetition. Yes.
Her repeating it over and over like helped with like trying to figure out what she was saying.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm. And what was she talking about? And like I said, it is unrealistic, so it's a little funny to watch, but what was it that she was trying to have you guys organize?
You want to know? Thank you.
Healthy food versus unhealthy food.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So with these two videos, you were kind of able to see what a student or a family goes through when there's nothing in place for them in order to understand the content. And looking at everyone's faces in the first video, there were probably feelings of confusion, frustration, why am I doing this? This is ridiculous. So, and that was only 2 minutes of your time. The students are in our schools for hours trying to figure out what's going on. So, you also have in front of you guidelines to achieve comprehensible input, and a lot of the things that you mentioned are part of comprehensible input. So physical gestures, images, videos, repetition, your speech, making sure that you're speaking slowly but not drastically slowly, right? Just a normal pace to help the students understand, pointing, things like that. And so something I had my classroom teachers do was look at this list and think about what they are already doing or what are some things that they feel like they could work on or do more for our students. So you can take a look at this whenever you get the chance, and then we're going to continue on with our presentation. So it started at the district level and really identifying and supporting the needs of the students that were incoming in our district. And over the past 7 years, we saw a huge influx of students who are multilingual learners. So the first thing that happened was really identifying the need of TESOL teachers based on enrollment. So we were really fortunate that our district supported hiring TESOL teachers, so one for every building. They also provided support for TESOL teacher certification because they wanted to grow from within. So many of our teachers took the opportunity to get that certification. And Melly, for example, she did that on her own, but she was from our district. She was at the preschool. Building a department, so then TESOL really became a team and also coaches. So first it was really just a few of the teachers, and they were isolated and just working in their own building. And we know that that's not effective. So the TESOL teachers came together as a team and really shared problems of practice, strategies that were working well in each school, and were able to make those unifying practices across all of our district. And that way too, our families and our students had the same supportive experience, no matter what school they were at. And then TESOL really led by Nomelli, they became instructional coaches. So linked to we'll talk more about our own school, but pushing into classrooms and really supporting the growth of our teachers. Students can't just be pulled in isolation, only receiving support from TESOL teachers. Teachers need strategies because the students are with them the majority of the day. So really building our teacher capacity. And then providing professional learning opportunities to turnkey. So we'll talk a lot about this, but really identifying work at cultural work and climate work. So supporting an inclusive school community for all students and talking about culturally responsive teaching, and then Nomelli spoke about SIOP. So at Andrew Avenue, when I first started, we only had around 20 ML students, but we had maybe one newcomer out of the 20. So as time went on, we started getting an influx of newcomers. And what we noticed was an over-reliance on technology, hesitation to connect with the families because they were unsure on how to connect with them. And then the rigor was reduced because teachers and staff were not sure what the students knew and where to meet them, and then translation assistance was not provided. Now, the steps that we've taken in the school and as a district is just building relationships with the staff first to form trust, and then we provided professional development and staff meetings, and then Meg gave me the opportunity to have PLCs with the teachers, so I was able to implement strategies like I showed you with the SIOP, and we've been able to bring that back into the classroom. Also provide resources for translating, like how to translate documents, how to translate for the student in real time. So we have some iPads, or some teachers use their phones if they need to. And then provide support to families through events, celebrations, and communication, making sure that when the families come in, things are being translated for them, that they feel welcome. We try to keep the school inclusive, like Meg said, so making sure our bulletin boards are culturally responsive and that they just feel like they're a part of our community like every other family. And then, like I said, provide strategies to teachers to help support those ML students. And then leadership. So this is going to be my third year at Andrew Avenue. So in terms of the steps I took when I joined, I was really fortunate that Nomelli was there. But the first thing that was really important was build relationships with all stakeholders. So really, I wasn't going to go in hot and change a lot of things. I had to really form those relationships so the staff and the community trusted me. Then really focus the first whole year of professional development I provided was on culture and climate and really talking about what an inclusive school community looks like.
and being really clear on our non-negotiables so that we would translate for families, that we would have high expectations for all students, that we would really meet students where they're at and families and make sure that families felt welcome. So we changed, like Nomeli said, what our bulletin boards looked like. I remember in my first meeting with Nomeli, she said, can I put signs up for things like the bathroom in different languages, all areas of our school? So really taking that and running with it. And really, I think the most impactful thing I did is just support Nomeli's work and just let her do her thing, because you know, she's exceptional at it, but just her passion and her lens of supporting our ML students is something that is so critical. So linking Nomeli on our instructional leadership team, so we meet once a week and look at data from all aspects, reading, math, language, and social emotional, and then giving her the opportunity to provide professional learning, not only for our teachers, but we also did it for our para-educators who spend time with students, our social emotional staff, so really anyone who worked directly with students and families, make sure that they had the tools and strategies to support the students.
So talking a little bit about building teacher capacity in our PLCs, we went over common misconceptions. I try to tackle things a little at a time. When we would push into classrooms, we would notice things, and then I would bring it into the PLC as a learning opportunity. So we would score things together, make sure that we are being understanding that language is not a deficit. We just need to make sure that we are looking at asset-based, what they're bringing to the classroom. So we analyze ML student data across all disciplines and collaborate with the instructional coaches to support all students. And then with SIAP, I went to a SIAP training, which is where I got this beautiful sheet from. But I provide the SIAP coaching in faculty meetings, so like Meg said, for all of the staff. And then in order to ensure teacher buy-in through student stories and personal connections, like we just did now with the video, feeling how the students might be feeling is what really helps the teachers want to do the work. And then the expectations are clear in our school strategic plan, and we do walkthroughs to ensure implementation throughout. And then with family partnership, we have a strong focus on building relationships for all staff, and then we did some training on funds of knowledge. So understanding where these families are coming from and how scary it might be for them to walk into a building and not have support or translation available, and how can we help them feel more comfortable in coming into our building. We also did a lead training, which helps with tracking attendance and supporting the families. Most of our ML students are impacted by that, and I'm sure you're going to hear more about that. And then we always make sure anything that's sent home is sent home in their native language, and that translation is always accessible for parent conferences or whatever meeting that parents need to come to. So every January, we're going to end with this, our students are expected to take the language assessment skills. It's called LASS for short. And our multilingual learners need to take this extensive test that has 4 different parts to it: reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and it assesses their language acquisition. So this will start in January. So what we typically do in January, students participate in a LASS parade, as we call it, and students are encouraged to wear something that represents their culture. And then they parade around in the gym, and the whole school cheers them on and wishes them good luck on this assessment, since they're the only ones taking it. Yeah. And then once they finish the testing, well, even throughout the testing, we're supporting them. So I make sure that they get little snacks, anything that the kids created, posters, I hang them around in the hallway so that they can feel motivated when they walk into the testing session. And then towards the end, we do a LASS graduation celebration, which we started it last year, and students who exited LASS were recognized in a special ceremony with a breakfast, starting with a breakfast with their family. And then we bought them little graduation souls with their nationality on it, and it was a really big deal. And then we also celebrated the students that moved up overall levels throughout the whole school. And then teachers and students would shout words of encouragement anytime I pulled the student out of the class for testing. So let's say I pulled a student out of class, the friends would say, "You can do it, you got this." So it was really nice to see the community pulling together for these students. Just some data. As you can see in this column over here, in 22-23, we had 33 students in our school, and then we always look at their average percentage of target achieved and their growth rate. And you can see that jump from the next year, we had 52 students. So it was a little hard to manage that because a lot of the students were newcomers. So trying to build the capacity of teachers, like Meg said, it starts in the classroom because they are tier 1 and they are the ones that spend the most time with these students. So this year we were able to see incredible growth with everything that we've been putting into place with PLCs, faculty meetings, and building the teacher capacity. And then these are some pictures of our students and our last parade. So we join on in the gym, and they walk down the hallway. We have confetti poppers. And then to the left, you see the students that graduated last year with their little soles on, and they were really excited about this. It's a huge achievement for them. And we'll leave it here.
Wow.
First, thank you so much. This was really great. I know you said this started at the district level. Is that where you got a lot of like the funding for the translation itself or providing those services? Like, where did that come from to support you in doing that?
That's a great question. We already had in our school iPads, so I was able to just work with what I had, but the district did support us with getting a translation service that we use for conferences. And then just recently, our superintendent bought like 2 little translation tools for each school. And so our secretary has one in case a family comes in and they need to communicate. So, yeah.
Good morning. Thank you again for saying yes to our invitation. But I wanted to know if you could share a little bit about the families. How did the families respond to the support that you have put in place?
Well, even with the last celebration and the graduation, these specific students, this was the first time we ever had done it, and it was the most students we had exited in a while, so we were really excited about what we've been doing. It's working, right? So when the parents came in, they were like in tears because they felt so proud, and I think when building that culture in our school, they felt like their students were important and that they brought something to the school, which was really impactful. And we see it now when families come and attend our celebrations or even activities. They just feel a lot more welcome. They're more willing to reach out, where in the beginning they would only reach out to me. Now they reach out to the school. They know that they can walk in and they know they're going to be supported. So in the beginning, I was always used for translation. Anytime a student came in, a family came in, I'd have to go to the office, where now they handle things and I don't even know the family was there. So it's a complete transition.
Another great data point was that our chronic absenteeism. So 2 years ago, it was at 17%. And we really noted that a lot of those students were our ML families, and we wanted to change that to support them and see what they needed, which we're excited for your presentation. But we ended the year last year with 9% of students chronically absent, so we saw a huge decrease in that. But I think that was just due to families feeling supported and they could communicate and collaborate with us, so they would reach out to myself or our counselor all the time if there was an attendance issue. And didn't feel nervous to do that. So yeah, that was a huge, we were really excited about that. Any other questions?
Meg, on that point, can you talk some about how the teachers responded? You noted earlier on they were hesitant to contact those families. So can you talk some about their growth and their interactions with the families?
Yeah, I think that the hesitation was really, you know, like I talked about building relationships my first year, and Nomelli is an expert at that, as well as the hesitation when we got down to it was fear that they would say or do the wrong thing. So in building the culture and climate of we can make mistakes as adults, we can take risks, teachers felt more comfortable to do that and go to Nomelli or myself or, you know, our reading consultant and say, I'm nervous about this, should I try this? Talk it through, and then we would encourage them, communicate to the families yourself or reach out. And in feeling safe to do that, I think that they really took that and ran with it. And Nomelli actually just went to a PD with a teacher who you wanted to go to. He was like, I want to turnkey this as a teacher with our colleagues rather than Nomelli turnkeying everything. So I think that the shift from being anxious, we've really seen that shift. And sometimes, you know, everyone needs reminders and strategies, but talking about it every single day has really made a difference.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, we will have more time later. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to introduce Lily Cordero. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning. Buenos dias, like we had a little breakfast because it was nice breakfast outside. Let's try again. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, there we go. My name is Lily Cordero, and as they said, this looks like a presentation, but it really is a conversation. We just happen to be at the multi-state conference for bilingual education, and it's the same presentation that we'll use today. So if you have any questions, raise your hand, please ask me. We're going to be talking about how do we build trust and leadership through a home visit program. I am, again, Lily Cordero, and I oversee the ESL department, the equity initiatives, and all student support in Plainville Community Schools. It's a very small district, so when you're at a small district, you wear many hats. So here's what I'll share with you. My name is Lily Cordero. If you see that little QR code, that will give you access to this presentation. If you miss it, it's at the last slide as well. And you will also have access to the document. In your desks, you have a blue folder with a pen from Plainville. If you're at the back, you probably just have sheets, but they also have the logo, and that's what we'll be using today. Today we're just going to talk about what kind of impact do home visits have, right, on schools and families. When we engage families in their homes using their language, we promote the growth for them to self-advocate, which is what they want them to feel part of our own community. And then we're going to talk about either building or expanding, if you like what you hear, these programs or partnership programs in your traditional structures. As I mentioned earlier, Plainville's a very small school district. We have 5 schools, 3 elementary, 1 middle, 1 high school. Our total district is 2,149 students, okay? Of those students, 171 are multilingual learners. That's 8% of our total population. There are 20 languages spoken within our multilingual learner identified students. But I made sure I did research because I wanted a small community to know there are 33 plus languages, including sign language, spoken in district. So although it's a very small district, it's very linguistically and culturally diverse. And that's very important to keep in front of our superintendents, our Board of Education members, and our principals and school communities. 48%, about half, are Spanish speakers. And we wanted to identify the top 3 languages spoken in district because in order to provide that support, we need to do that. First is Spanish, followed closely by Polish, and the third one keeps shifting every year. Last year it was Portuguese, this year is Ukrainian. I had Laura Bell because she is the one that leads this program with us, but she couldn't be here today. She is a bilingual teacher at the middle school. So why home visits as a department in a school district? Usually this is done by schools, and it is most impactful when you have a school, because the program we chose shows that if 10% of your students get a home visit, 100% of your student population gets positively impacted. And we'll talk a little bit about why that happens or why you may think that happens. For us, it was important to look at our student population, see needs, and decide what works. We had to do one thing because we're a small department. So we took a look at what strategies have the most impact on student engagement, right? And we want impact on student learning. We want to build community and all that stuff, but ultimately is to engage our students and have them grow. All the way to the right at the highest impact, home visit was there. So we as a department chose to focus all our efforts on that one thing and measure and track progress and growth. We believed in it so much that part of our strategic plan is partnerships and community connections. Schools have to have a school improvement plan that is linked to the strategic plan, and departments are required to have that as well. It focuses in 4 areas: mastery, social emotional learning, systems and operations, and community connections. What you see here is just our goal. We are also following the Marzano framework, so it has to be aligned directly, and what this is our department plan. And our community connections goal is directly related to home visits and mentions the program that we're using, which is PTHV, parent-teacher home visit. I don't work for them, they don't pay my salary, but we're having such positive outcomes with it that we wanted to sort of share with you guys. But this is to show you that we are committed to this. It is part of our plan, it is something we're tracking, and it is something we're sharing data with at the end of the year to the board, to the super and assistant superintendent, and to our principals at our different school districts. Now, this is just a little interactive. When you have your phone and you don't have to, you can scan the QR code and let us know. In your districts, in your schools, do you know if they're implementing a home visit program? And I put yes or not yet, because maybe you might think that's good or you're unsure if you don't. We have about, I know there's more people here, so I'll refresh again, but so far about 9 said yes, 3 not yet, and 5 are not sure. And that's perfectly okay. Just like with your student demographic, the first step is knowing, hey, how many MLs do we have? Do we have a home visit program? What are we doing? The inquisitive mind and asking those questions and who to ask, it's helpful. I'm excited to see it again. Oh, maybe we're trying to do that. Sure. I told you I was a former special education teacher. I could tap dance and can do this all day. All right, so it looks like, a big chunk of you guys, right, are doing that. So hopefully at the end of today, you might have questions. We're going to share with you the data, how we implement, in my district, we call it Lilify, right? You can turn it into, there's a framework, but you take what works for you and support it and push it out in ways that work. This is an activity that we do, but we're not going to do here, pair share and tell the person next to you. You know what, let's do it. Just turn over to the person next to you, tell them what's your name, what district and organization, and your role. I wanted you to become friends because you're going to be asking each other questions a little bit later. But if someone can share, okay, they're on that last question, which I was going to tell you, I'm going to ask for that here, but I'm glad you're sharing with your partner. Can someone share either what you shared or what someone else shared for you that is one positive or surprising experience they have when visiting or speaking with a student family? Anybody? Any brave soul? And I was a teacher, so I can leave. Yes.
Okay, so Ashley Hutchinson from Stanford Public Schools. I am the Family and Community Engagement Liaison and the McKinney-Vento Specialist for my district.
Me too.
So I personally have not done any home visits myself, but one positive or surprising experience I've noticed just from speaking to those, because I oversee both PTHV and LEAP for our district too, is that the families, once they have this individual to go and speak to, they tend to open up a lot. And so for me, it's not necessarily a positive per se, but I've had them open up about their housing situations, which has allowed me to provide them with resources and support so they don't feel so alone or so ostracized or all of that. So that's been something that's been helpful for me, is that through these home visits is getting to know them outside of school and putting a familiar face to them, and they're creating those connections. So when they do have problems, they now know who they can talk to, whether it's, we have family engagement specialists at each of our sites, or each of our 23 schools? I'm like looking at my colleagues that are here today. So we have one at every school. So for them, if they're a home visitor, it helps because now that's the one person they can go to at the school if they have any issues, and then they also have my contact information aside from that. So.
Well, from one McKinney-Vento liaison to another, thank you for what you do. And yes, this definitely connects. That's one of the many hats we all wear. So now that you know your neighbor, let's jump back a little bit into why Plainville Community Schools decided to go with the PTHV, which is the Parent-Teacher Home Visit Program that we selected. We identified that a lot of the means with connecting with families were one way. Right, we got parent-teacher conferences. Our for elementary was yesterday. I personally, like Nomeli and her team, like to keep my boots on the ground, so I was there. We provide live translation. We also have access to translation lines because there's 3 elementaries. You can't be in 3 places at the same time. But it is one way, right? As a teacher, letting the parent know how things are working. Their 10 minutes. I don't know how I do translation because you could barely get through an English one in 10 minutes, but we managed to translate and get through all the information. They're usually teacher-led or student-led, not two-way. Specifically talking about academics, even when it's a PTA or PTO event, it's just about what the school is pushing out, newsletters. We wanted a way to connect with families where they felt comfortable, but they also got to share about themselves and the students. The reason we chose the PTHV model is because of their framework of non-negotiables. Their visits, number one is visits have to be voluntary and arranged in advance. You have educators that have to be trained on the model because there's a specific model. We don't ask any questions about school-related stuff. It is related to number 3, students' hopes and dreams, and visits have to be compensated. So teachers go in pairs, they visit the student, they make the phone call, parent has to be okay with scheduling the home visit, so do teachers. And we invite our multilingual learners, all of them. As I said, there's 172 students. So we pair them up, we decide, arrange them. The model asks that you schedule them in sets of 3s. The green, which is the student that you're really excited about because they worked so hard, they've exited almost in 2 years and they're ready to go. That will pump you up and get you really excited and full of energy. You identify in yellow that particular student that's quiet, probably withdrawn in a little corner, but you want to know a little bit more about them. Because the more information we have about students, the easier it is to service. And then the red student, it's that student that's really struggling, that you see that there might be issues with, or what people call behavioral attendance, and we don't know why. But we tend to make assumptions as to why. So that red student is your 3rd visit, and then you recycle again through the same cycle process. And then I will tell you what we found about doing it that way, because again, we followed the model exactly how the training went, and we're going to show you the results that we got. And lastly, again, educators go in visits in pairs. They reflect on the way back in visits. They don't bring any writing tools or utensils. It's just really and truly home visit to establish a connection. And we have 2 home visits. One at the beginning, there's communication in between, and then one at the end. And once you've established that relationship, I'll tell you a little bit about what that home visit looks like for us. Another thing that really solidified for us why PTHV was the way to go is that their research shows that their screens increase in student achievement. They build skills and understandings of the families for the school. So it's sort of like a bridge of communication. It improves school climate and it increases the cultural competence. I have a little story about an oopsie, but you learn from those and you kind of go, and then you share that with your team. And I'm going to share it with you so that it doesn't happen to you, right? And then you also build community support for all our local schools. And we're going to have, because we're on year 2 of our parent-teacher home visit program, multicultural family event that is happening March 26th. So Dr. B and team, hope that you can come and attend. And it came from all the visits and establishing these relationships to celebrate the linguistic diversity of our school district. Let me tell you a little bit about how our journey is. And Nomeli and team talked about student stories and personal connection. We have data, but this is more important it is more important and it builds more connection when you get to know the student, when you get to know the family, and teachers make those connections. And that's how you build relationships. What we accomplished in year one, and we began a little bit late because it was in March, we were able to schedule time to make these calls. It is imperative for the ML team, because that's the team that was doing the home visits, to have time together to create a framework, the forms. They give you a sample phone call dialogue that you can use, and then you can adapt it to your own. But it's provided support, like SEL support we call it, because there is that hesitation and that scare of we gotta pick up the phone and call families. I mean, that happens to all of us. But once you did it, you know, we laughed and we giggled, and then it was like, next person. We also have access to a Google Calendar that is a shared calendar, so we all can see who's going to what home visit. And there's a bilingual Spanish-speaking teacher that goes to every single one of these to provide access to language. We also have access to the language line for families to speak other languages. When we began, we had 2 teacher volunteers and 1 admin. You're looking at her. And we were very intentional about scheduling. We kept documentation of tracking of who we're visiting, what schools they are. We're visiting all 5 schools, tracking data for 2 schools, our middle school and Linden Street School. In the second year, we added 2 new things, as you can see there. In 4 months, we continued. We're able to schedule 20 visits. We only had 2 declined. And usually, we try to find out like what is the reason for the decline, and it was scheduled. We were scheduling some, maybe even on a Sunday, which I told teachers, don't take your personal time, but for specific circumstances, we made adjustments. We understood a single parent that works 2 jobs. So our teachers, you know, fine-tooth comb, but it's a small district, so if the word gets out, the teachers are visiting on a Sunday, everybody wants a Sunday visit. We, again, continued the dedicated time. Our numbers grew because our goal was not to do what I call carrying the heavy backpack or work in silence. This wasn't an ML program thing. This was initiated by the Multilingual Learner Program, but our goal was to connect our teachers to these visits. So I went in front of staff. I asked principals, they were very open to give me a little bit of time to tell the Multilingual Learner team is making home visits. You're gonna get an invitation when they go. It's compensated, and you can go if you would like to. We're gonna share the outcome anyway. So there was, again, March to June, a little hesitancy. Our goal was to do the first year ourselves so that we can bring in a team and provide the training and get them connected. We continued documenting and tracking, but now we're aligning that tracking to also their ELA, math, and attendance. Because as Nomeli shared, what we realize is it's not just MLs though. Our Hispanic students whose parents might speak a different language, they're disproportionately overly represented on the number of absenteeism. So our goal was to also track and keep a number of these. So here's what we found, right? That was the beginning of a journey, and here's what we found. Planning meetings in groups works. Strategic pairing of teachers for us was the most bang for our buck. What do I mean by that? If we have a student in 5th grade that is moving to the middle school the next year, we paired up our middle school teacher with our ML 5th grade teacher. So now you're building that connection. They get to see and know who they're going with. And if the student had 2, then you kind of are hitting 2 birds with 1 stone because you're getting information on your 5th grader and your middle schooler. And I have a little story for you after this on how this paid off for a student transitioning from middle school to high school who was extremely nervous and left the school on the first day, but was able to come back and successfully complete her day, although she left. It increased cultural competence of our staff. That story I shared with you earlier that I was going to tell you, so it didn't happen to you. We scheduled home visits ahead of time. We had scheduled them for March. Thank you. Our students were Muslim, and what happens in March in our Muslim community? And one thing that we found is that our Muslim families love to feed you. So when you enter, and it's daylight, and there's 13 arrays of different flavor of drinks and things because they don't know what you like, so they have everything. You kind of feel that in your gut a little bit. And so, of course, we were apologetic, we're sorry, they just wanted to please. So because they were given that frame of time, they just simply scheduled. So to our questioning, we added, is there any specific holidays or anything we need to be mindful of that, you know, we can schedule this visit around. And so we added that. So learn from us and don't do it. Because and the whole time they're looking at us going, eat, and we're like, no, we'll wait for you. And they're like, 40 more minutes, and you're, you know, eating kind of feeling. Tracking academic data. As we're looking across all levels, because we do direct language instruction of students, we track last links plus our assessment. But we started to look at ERLAs or different scoring for ELA and math, and we started to see that it wasn't correlating. The progress that we were seeing in our assessments, we're not showing in ELA. In having conversations with the students, it was so simple because we make assumptions. The student was like, oh, that's what the test does? These are middle schoolers. So we were like, yes, so please pay attention, please focus, and then we started to see a real correlation. I think it's over testing, sometimes students are just clicking. So again, having a conversation with families or students does help bring some clarity as to what's the barrier, because we try to remove a barrier that might not be the appropriate one. That's another thing we found through this. The way we plainvillify it or lilify it is that when our teachers come back from the home visits, they created this home visit summary. They share with administrators and teachers. You'll have a sample of this particular form. Students' names have been mapped out, but this is an actual summary for a student. What I want you to focus on what my team found in this one, and this is an open choice student, so it was a Hartford visit, we went to do. They were talking on the way back going, it was so difficult to hear. They live above a church, and they were giving service and playing music, and traffic was coming and going. So they asked the parent, how often does this happen? And she goes, well, they worship at different times. Sometimes it could be nighttime. So it impacts homework, it impacts sleeping, right? Things of that nature. So that was part of the summary that was provided to teachers and students. Here is feedback from our teachers, right? Because you're like, yeah, I can send that to the teacher, but they won't read it. So we were like, I wonder if they're reading it. This was organic. We didn't request feedback. As we send these out, these are from last year, right? You can see teachers saying, thank you so much. What you tell us helps us support the student. If you look at the bubble that says Mr. Duva is a retired science teacher at Plainville Middle School. That letter of the student that was above the church provided him some information that he said, thank you so much. She puts her head down in my class. I was assuming that she was uninterested or it was too hard to comprehend the content because there was no removal of barriers, or it could be uninteresting. Some teachers say, oh, they just spend all night playing video games. He said, because of your note, I was able to send her to the nurse. She got some rest, and then she came right back. And remember, our MLs have that cognitive load going all the time. So tiredness is also, imagine if you're already tired to then do the level of work. Again, it builds that empathy and support. So that data, that point that I gave you, that if you visit 10% of your students, 100% of them have growth, it's not because anything changed with our student population. It is because our teachers see a different perspective, right? We all assume, and I love to tell people this, we all assume all kids go to bed with a meal, with a bedtime story, and they get tucked in bed, because that's what we do for our children. Unfortunately for some, that's not accurate, and we need to be mindful and aware of that. And I think when teachers start to realize that, right, they're more on board. Now, our responses were not only from teachers. Here's some feedback from principals. Mr. Batchelder is principal at one of our elementary schools, and it was just thank you for the feedback. But when teachers see that, principals reinforce, so thank you so much for supporting the ML program, because without that support from administrators, it's kind of, you can't have the grand impact that we're having. Amy Roberts is the principal at the middle school, and Joanna Tisco is the assistant principal, who then volunteered and said, this is great, I used to do these, can we go and support as well? Now I'm just looking at my timing, but in your folders, we got time, okay, perfect. In your folders, you have, what we're gonna do right now is a little bit of role play, and I put a timer. It is that particular home visit of that young lady who lives right above that church. So I would like you to pair up in teams of 2 or teams of 3. You're gonna have a parent, and you have 2 teachers. If it's just 2, the teacher can read the teacher one, right? As you're reading and talking, I want you to focus on listening with not judgment, not assumptions. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about what felt different than a regular school conversation that you have on the phone or you have at school. So if you want, you can start. You know that partner you introduce yourself to? That's who you're going to be talking to. I was experiencing a little FOMO. You're all having so much fun, and I was left out. And I'm like, hey, I want to hear. As you were doing this activity, right, what felt different from a typical school conversation as you were talking? Sure. What felt different than a typical school conversation, like when you're having a parent-teacher conference or a phone call in school? What felt different in this scenario?
So I think that when we do home visits, the difference between a meeting in the school and at home is in the school the parents feel more safe. They feel more comfortable, and if the children is there, they become part of the conversation as well. And if they become part of the solution. So for us, at least for me, I feel that going into the home is where the parents have the power. They are the ones who are dictating how that home visit is going to go. And they notice us as being in their same levels, that there is no power over anybody. So there's more engagement and there's better relationship building there.
What's your name?
Magda Carrero.
Magda, thank you so much for that. We have started to ask our families in our second home visit, because part of our program is to get feedback from the families. How does it feel? Do you like it? And why is it different? And we also ask the student. And the student shares that they feel like they can ask for more help more comfortably, as you shared. Everything you shared is exactly why. Parents say, I can speak my language, so I'm more comfortable because I can kind of tell you, right? Instead of what I know I want to say, but I may not have the English words for. That's why we take the translation line. And they build this relationship and this trust with the teachers that go. For us, we become the bridge, because once they trust us, if they have something that is related to social worker, we connect them with the social worker and get the language line. We connect them with the school counselor, get the language line. And eventually, what you will start to see is that these parents start advocating for themselves. So thank you so much.
Lily, I think we have a few more voices in the room that wanted to share.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so you know I love to share. So we had, I think our session felt a little bit different for us because we have a real life student here.
Yay!
And so the student was actually a part of the conversation. What's your name?
Sky.
This is Sky.
Hi, Sky.
And so when we got down to one of the questions about what you want your teacher to know about you, Sky shared. Do you want to share? But during our little conversation, she shared with her teacher that she wanted her teachers to know that she needed to stay hydrated.
Oh, that's important.
Because
Yes.
Sky has sickle cell disease, and she shared that in our meeting.
Perfect. Well, Sky, thank you for sharing. That's very important. We call that advocacy. We have another hand here. And as we get to that particular person, Sky's story is very relatable, because when we asked one of our students that we just visited at the middle school level, she said, I like it. She also gets infusions. So she said, I like it because I can tell them that I'm tired and they understand why I need time to get my homework done, to which we prompted the process of a 504 to support the extra time, because they're moving to the high school and teachers might not just know with a medical note. So it does provide supports, just like Sky shared. Thank you for sharing that, because it made a connection in my brain to that.
In our interview with the family, it was not as easy because one of the parents that were part of the family was very skeptical and hesitant about answering the questions because they weren't sure what the people were exactly wanted from them, and migration situation starts popping up, all those insecurities, and they don't want to open up at the beginning. So there's that barrier that you have to work around it in order to access, very gently to the family and meet them where they are. So that's something that we find critical.
We have run into that, and I have more hands over there as we talk. Parents ask us, let me tell you a little bit about what this is about, because you're right, if we don't, and they either hesitantly schedule it, and we've had parents flat out ask, what is this for? Why do I, we're like, it's totally voluntary. We can call back next month because it's just to get to know you. And then some concerns during the visits have come. Is it safe to send my student home? My cousin told me that in X town or X state, you don't send your kids to school because they may not come home. So yes, we're hearing those same concerns as well, which is important to bring to your school community so they understand what the community is struggling with as well, without identifying, obviously.
Good morning. I think a good part of meeting the families where they are is being prepared in advance when you go visit them. So we try to incorporate pre-preparation to make the family aware of where we're coming from. Sometimes the anxiety of meeting the school from former, or since I say past anxiety they had with the schools or bad relationships, tend to oversee the whole meeting concept. And they think that what's happening in school might be brought to their home. So, breaking the ice, so to speak, sometimes tend to allow families to be more open and being a little bit more discreet about the environment from which they come. Sometimes reading the room helps, the meeting go well, the invite becomes more like a familiar setting to them and vice versa. And we go with expectations of no expectations, but to build a bond. And that from that tends to foster more of a connection, more relationship, and longevity-wise, the families open up more. The child tends to have more to say or more input about what's going on with them. And from there, it spreads like a plague, so to speak. They're more apt to come to you, they're more forward, they're more open, and they're more devoted to what's really happening within the family, so you can be able to support them better.
Thank you. We find the same exact thing. Families are different, what they have to show and offer is different, but the one thing that is the same is they open their doors, they give you everything they have, and what they have is different. But they're so happy you're there once you build that trust, and they know that you're there to help.
Just to piggyback a little bit on what the gentleman said in regards to the anxiety that some of our families have is also finding that right setting. A lot of families don't feel comfortable with us coming to their homes, and what I've used in the past is, meeting them at a public library or at our welcome center or even like a coffee shop just to get the setting more comfortable for them so they can actually end up opening up to us.
Thank you for sharing that. A part of our speech is, would you like it could be set up, we don't want to have it at school, it could be at the library or a coffee shop or your home if you're comfortable. So thank you for highlighting that. That is an option we give them because they're not sure what you're coming to your home, although every time you go to a house, the kid wants to take you to their bedroom and we're like, but they're so excited that they want to share it.
Just a few more.
Yeah, of course.
So something that I like to do as a home visitor, especially with students, I work with a high school and elementary school as well, so I get a little bit of both worlds. And something that I have learned helps students and the family kind of bring down those walls is just letting them know that I am here with the district, however, I am here for you, your student, and your family. And so that allows them to understand, I'm here to help pick you up from the cracks, I'm here to help pick him up from any little cracks that he might be seeping into, and it allows them to take away some of the stigma that I'm there to call on DCF or to look at the conditions of their home or anything in that nature that might make them feel intimidated to even want to encounter a school staff.
Thank you. And part of our choice for Plainville, for picking DTHB over LEAP, it's that proactive, positive approach of visiting everybody as opposed to the students maybe falling through the cracks because they already know they feel targeted. Oh, if you're calling me, I'm not going to pick up the phone because it's always I'm in trouble. Or if you're visiting me, it's because there's something wrong. So we're just hopes and dreams. And they'll ask, how about grades? And we're like, we don't have our computer. We're just here to talk, get to know you, and just how to navigate. Yes, we'll get that to you whenever we can, but we're here for you. So just build and strengthen that relationship that you talk about. So thank you.
I think from, my name is Consuelo, and I work at the high school level, and I have a complement of 21 other parent facilitators at all of the other schools in the Stanford public school system. So I think that one of our success stories I share with Noemi, because we had a family who had a bus stop on one of the heaviest traveled roads, no sidewalks, and there were piles and piles of ice and snow. And when Noemi brought that to my attention, I was able to advocate, dovetailed off of what she had already submitted, and then the family realized that we are all there as a community to support the safety of the children.
Awesome. And that reinforces, again, building that relationship. So now you strengthen that connection.
Hi. And to me, the aha moment is not just going to help a family, but what you can get besides it. I went to visit a family, and when we were talking about the student, the specific student, we saw in the other room a little 4-year-old going back and forth drinking milk from a baby bottle. And then we asked, who's this kid? He said, oh, it's my other son. And we saw that the kid wasn't doing like any eye contact. So we were able to support this family and say, like, you know what, there is a program here for pre-K, they can evaluate your kid. So it was like almost like a bonus. Like we weren't just helping that specific student, but also the family and give them the resources. So it's very rewarding. I have to add, everybody wants to feed you. Everybody's like super nice, and I feel like 100% of the visits that we have done have been very positive.
And that's the outcome. That's the feeling every single one of our teachers leaves the house when they do home visits. So it's apprehension at first, but that's exactly what they feel. Thank you all for sharing. What we found in year 2 is that we're moving from just building connections to creating co-leadership. These are families that are our families. The picture on the bottom is that family whose home I attended during Ramadan. Great family. Their child, dressed in pink, was moving from middle school to high school, was experiencing a little bit of anxiety, and ended up going home. The high school team called and said, they asked for you by name because I attended that particular home visit as she was transitioning to where we are. And dad was able to bring her back. I walked her to every class, and she was very successful because there really was a little bit of that fear. So again, they're now advocating for what they need, asking for the people they built the connection with. And after that, I just stepped back. She was able to be independent and do that. So she knows if she needs something, she can ask for it, where to find me. Parents are initiating contact with question supports. They're most likely to seek the supports that they need. And students are now requesting home visits, right? So they're like, when are you coming to my house? I hear you're going to people's houses. Dr. Harrison asked me, are non-MLs asking for home visits? And when they talk to their friends, they're like, are you visiting people's homes? We share at board meetings, and the board members are asking, are you going to do it for the community at large? So they are seeing it as a positive thing, and so are we. In your sheets, and we're not going to do this now, there's a reflection sheet with 4 questions. The first 3 is just take a look at it and identify 1 or 2 barriers that your school community or your school or your classroom might have to home visits. Think about what can they look like if you're a classroom teacher, if you're a leader of just a building, not necessarily a district, and who would you involve? Like to say, hey, this is a great idea, I heard about this, because that helps you kind of get over the hurdles and the barriers that we go, well, that can't happen because we don't have funding. Well, if it's a small home visit and there's a pocket of funds to visit your freshmen or to visit your classroom, what would that look like? Because then you know what you're asking for, right? We don't have to go major. I'm looking at pilots. I run a pilot on everything, show evidence, and then I, get them to provide supports. The important things to take away is track and share your data and information. Take pictures and anecdotes. Those connect. So you're not only connecting with families, but those stories connect heavily with the people you're requesting these funds from or you're doing the presentation for. Celebrate the success of your team. My team, I wish they were here, I gave them the option. They chose to be at an AI training for multilingual learners as a team, because we do PLC K-12 just like you guys do, because they knew that that was good for kids. But this couldn't happen if my team wasn't on board. And then share your success with the higher-ups. For me, that's the assistant superintendent. As I said, you have a link to this presentation. There's sample letters to parents, teachers, the phone call prompts that we use provided by PTHB, and there are PTHB resources. So when you click on that, that will take you directly to the parent-teacher home visit website that has all the research I've been talking about, all this information. And then you ask questions. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them, but I want to get that last question that you have is think about one commitment that you have for yourself, for your students, or for your schools that you might think if you're thinking of initiating something like this and what the impact it can possibly have. And then there's my name and Glorabelle, who would be here and normally does this with me. She's the coordinator of the program and arranges the payments, the visits, the calendar, and then that's the QR code for the presentation. Thank you all so much. You have been great.
Lily, a question came up in the back. They want to know about funding. How did you pay for home visits?
So we applied for a grant for PTHB. Thank you, Dr. B.
Oh.
Which
Well, give me
connected us
back
to
the mic.
program.
I'm kidding.
But you know, that question comes up often, and that's how we identify the program. But after the grant runs out, we have to figure out how to do it ourselves. So what we have decided, and that's why I talked to you about, think about what it can look like for you, and start with the pilot to have data. For us, it's going to look like we're starting with the high school freshmen and our incoming students and all our students. We're going to continue it. We're going to continue to share our success. We're going to continue to visit families that may need additional supports, but it's onboarding those incoming families, which again, for us in our small district is not that much in numbers, and we have funding to support teacher workday, teacher hours, so we're going to take some of our Title III funding or some fundings from elsewhere because we're showing them that it works. And if you come on the 26th, and they're all invited, by the way, just come over and say,
Oh,
"Really,
wow.
come." I invited the assistant superintendent and the superintendent. They'll be in attendance because my goal is for them to see how we really are connecting with communities and families. And they're thankful to know how linguistically diverse the district is because people sometimes don't know. They assume that I can see that, and you really can't.
How many languages in your district?
33 plus, including sign language, which again, somebody said to me, you know, sign language is language. I said, I'm sorry, okay. And we added it there, and we also have sign.
Thank you. So what other questions do you have? Do you have questions for our conversation catalyst or any aha moments? Anything changed for you? I'm coming.
I had the opportunity to do a little reflections because I am, English is not my first language. I came to the U.S. when I was about 12 years old with my dad in university, and I realized that it's harder for me to make a connection with the first language families, where English is their first language. For some reason, I tend to make a much faster and much genuine connection with the multilingual families for some reason. Maybe because...
Well, you can empathize.
Yeah. And even though that's not something that I always share, it's very obvious. And so that's something that allowed me to reflect and trying to implement some different techniques for myself when I am performing at home visit with an English-speaking student and family, so it doesn't feel awkward or off. And I think some of the culture plays a role into that. So it's easier to connect with someone when you can talk about cultural things that bring you back to your foundations, right? But when you don't have that and you're not from here, it's hard to go back to that foundation with a parent that can't really connect in that same aspect. So that's something that I'm really happy I was able to reflect on and really work on that.
Thank you. Reflection is a huge part of learning.
So what I kind of aha moment,
look at y'all
especially
over here.
talking from non-tech schools, is like not looking at ML learners, MLs as like a deficit, like to celebrate them.
Not at
And
all.
I feel like sometimes I see administrators and teachers being like, well, I have all these ML students, like it's a bad thing, and I think it's great. I did have one quick question. It looked like when you did the celebration, it was elementary school kids. I was thinking about our middle school kids, and they don't want to seem extra. Like they wouldn't like that. Like, did you ever do that with middle school kids in your district? Okay.
So at our middle school, because it's a big part, they give awards during the presentation or what they call their graduation ceremony. And one thing that we do is highlight competencies and academic gains for language acquisition. So we don't say ESL or we don't say,
for showing mastery in language acquisition.
Yeah, it makes me
Yeah.
think we have a middle school that has an honor roll ceremony, like, let's include those
And our ML
students.
teacher also gives room for growth because we want to celebrate and we share how many languages. It's important to keep that in front of our population.
Thank you. I'm going to come to one of our former Family Advisory Council members, Yukio. And I remember a few years ago, she was such a huge advocate to ensure that, one, all of our documents was translated, all of our PowerPoints were translated, that we had the extra Zoom to make sure that we were providing all of these resources. So I just want to hear a few words of wisdom from you. We have a celebrity among us, y'all.
And she's a positive potato.
And she's not shy either.
I am a positive potato. Yeah, and so, you know, being an immigrant kid, having gone through school, seeing my parents maneuver, right, like 3 different dictionaries, and there were actual dictionaries that they had to carry around to get to school to like try to do all these meetings. So, you know, the technology is here that we can do things like having slides translated so that people can see it, but also, you know, having simultaneous interpretation so that people are hearing the same thing at the same time, and it's not like a after the fact that they're getting the message and then getting the joke, right? Like that secondary laughing, you're like, oh, that was uncomfortable. So just really appreciate the thought that, you know, a lot of the districts are doing in terms of how do we support not just the students learning English, but also the parents and caregivers, grandparents, you know, whoever it is that's an adult in their life, to be able to access all this information, to be able to just be really like support the growth of this child in their life. And so thank you for offering all sorts of supports for the families to be able to access and going to visit their homes and just making those connections. It's really so wonderful to see that the conversation has come so far, and you know, for the CFSP to continue. I remember the acronyms to be, you know, like bringing this back every year so that every year there's learnings that people, you know, can gain from. So really appreciate how much we've come. Thank you.
No, thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm coming. But I heard that there's some research about when students learn, when they know additional language, that they have the opportunity to earn a higher income, right? They have this is a superpower. It's not supposed to be appeared as a deficit.
Another important thing that I think we always have to take into consideration is that the multilingual families, they don't only need an interpreter or a translator. It's like also the culture that they bring in from.
Exactly.
Because we can translate into any language, but if we don't help them understand, like going to school, it's not like if you go there, you're not imposing, you're not like trying to change anything. A lot of cultures, they believe like the school does their thing and we do our thing.
Right.
So when we try to make people understand how the culture works here and how they can enrich our culture with their culture, I think it's a big gain. Not just the language, but the culture.
Absolutely. I think, did you have your hand up? Okay, we have about 10 minutes left. If there's no more questions or aha moments, reflections, I believe we are going to receive a tour today. You want to go on the tour. One of the reasons I brought Sky is so we can go on the tour. The spaces here are amazing. The other thing I wanted to say to Nomeli, thank you so much for that activity. Before being provided the graphic organizer, of course we weren't able to do anything. After the graphic organizer and looking at the gestures of the teacher, actually Sky and I completed the form. So she knew more than I did. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Kim.
Years ago, I was in an early childhood meeting like this, and I had said, it's really great that we share our successes and we learn so much from each other. There's also a lot of value in sharing our mistakes. And so I too did a potluck during Ramadan. And we later had coffee with the imam, and we asked him, you know, is there anything we can do to support your child in school? And he said it would be really great if teachers knew that kids were fasting. You know, when you do AP testing during the time when they're fasting, we have kids who are running track who can't run those days. But also, could they have a place to pray? And so for 10 years, we had been asking our families to come into the schools, and they were like, yeah, no, we're not coming. So fast forward, Weathersfield started a calendar where we shared all of the holidays. Then we realized so many kids were absent for Eid that we have Eid off this year. And every school has a place for kids to pray. And this is the 4th year we've had an iftar dinner at the high school. So now it's not us inviting families, it's families inviting us. So thank you for everything that you share. We learn from everything that you do. And like the first person said, you know, creating a culture where it's okay to take a risk and be embarrassed. That's where we learn. So thank you.
Thank you. You know, we did something very similar when I was on staff in East Hartford. We noticed a lot of families were taking off because of Three Kings Day. And so then we paid attention to that. And so now that's part of one of the holidays that's celebrated in the district. Okay, last call. Okay. See, every time I say it, I see another hand pop up.
My name is Christy. I'm from Stanford. I'm a parent facilitator and also a former graduate of PLTI.
You all are everywhere. You're everywhere.
So what I find, and it was really an aha moment for me last year, as I was conducting visits, I met with a parent that was very hesitant in the first place to register her daughter for Stanford Public Schools. Okay, they were
Did she say why?
Yeah, they were looking at other opportunities. They were looking at private schools. They were looking, and also based on maybe what they were hearing. You know, and again, as parents, you know, it's their first child, and they're looking. You know, they want the best, and you know, they're hesitant about where know is the right fit or would be a right fit for my child. But the exercise that we did this morning, it was just amazing because I didn't know where they were coming from, but it just happened that it was a family, you know, with a particular, from the Asian side, and then, you know, the conversation went on, we ended up talking about food, just like the exercise here that we had this morning, and it was just so amazing because we were able to connect, and at the end she left feeling like, wow, I just did not know that, you know, but the public schools, I mean, what I'm experiencing today is much more different than what been done in the past. And with this relational model, I feel like I feel comfortable with the choice that I made for my daughter. So thank you so much again for the presentation today, and I really enjoyed everything. So yes, thank you.
And we're gonna end on that note. We're gonna end right there. Thank you, enjoy your weekend, and go be great on purpose. Thank you.